Hello, and welcome to Reality Remix, where we talk about controversial topics, current events, and discuss that which has an effect on this version of reality. I'm Dennis, your host, and in recent events, Joe Biden turned 79. Happy birthday, Joe. You're really looking your age. Your gaffes give us plenty of fodder for video clips, but honestly, you've been doing that for half a century now. With us in the studio are Jim. How you doing, Jim?
Marvelous. How about you guys? You doing well?
Yep, we're doing well. Solomon, how about you?
Evening. How you doing tonight?
Can't complain. And Anthony.
How's everybody doing? Hey, has anybody heard from Dale?
He's on vacation in Europe for another week and a half. So we'll hear back from him. He's been posting videos on Facebook and he's enjoying his European adventures.
Can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, he's definitely going to share with us when he gets back into town. Well, let's jump right in today's topic. Episode 14, Planned Obsolescence. Obsolescence is the state of being which occurs when an object, service, or product is no longer maintained, required, or degraded, even though it still may be in perfectly good working order. Is this planned from the start? I'll hand this one over to Anthony. What do you have to say, Anthony?
Well, planned obsolescence is a business strategy used by plenty of manufacturers, companies, where the obsolescence is built into the product and planned from its conception. It takes place in most consumer products today. It's not a new thing. The earliest examples date back to the 1920s, when incandescent light bulb manufacturers across the world created a cartel. It was known as the Phobius cartel. It's prevented any manufacturer from making bulbs that last longer than 1,000 hours, therefore needing to replace them more often. And in another example, also in the 1920s, the automobile market began reaching a saturation point. Everybody had a car at some point, and to maintain the sales units, General Motors executive Alfred P. Sloan Jr., he suggested an annual model year design change and to convince car buyers to buy new cars, with new looks, and it continues today. I mean, most vehicles go through a midlife facelift, more cosmetic thing than an engineering change, just to make it more appealing to the customer. And for instance, even a new color is added or taken away, so it's to make it more desirable. I mean, in its most basic terms, it's instilling the buyer in a desire to own something a little newer, a little better, a little sooner than it's necessary. And in the electronics industry nowadays, it's more true than ever. Some companies, not naming names here, they have been slowing down older devices and making the battery life shorter, almost to force the consumer to upgrade annually. And they're not as durable as they used to be, at least not in my lifetime. Are they doing this on purpose? Which begs the question, why are they doing it? Is it worth it? And if it's not broken, then why fix it or upgrade it, change it? Gentlemen?
I think in a way, it's used to keep people buying the new model of whatever that might be it the automobile, be it a new phone, the next new thing. There's always, if you keep it so that the product is always going to either eventually just be worn out by components or be at a date by components, then it keeps the market always fresh for the next new thing every year.
Okay, and I'd like to jump back to what you said about the light bulbs. LED bulbs advertised when they came out, oh, more energy efficient, last for 10 years. Okay, I converted my whole house over to LED bulbs. Yes, it saves energy. It saves a lot of energy. You know, the electric bill is going to go down if I convert everything to LED bulbs. Well, LEDs are slightly more expensive than the incandescents, but heck, they last for 20 years. No, they last about a year and a half, and then they randomly fizzle. Some of them dim down. Okay, now I'd like to know the per unit cost on an LED bulb, but their price that you have to buy them, as opposed to the good old-fashioned incandescent bulbs that never seem to ever go out repeatedly in a rapid fashion. But if you put like 10 brand new light bulbs in your house and you go back, well, one of them burns out 1 month, another one burns out another month, after a year, of course, you know, something like that. But it seems like bam, 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 LED syndrome, they're all catching the LED flu and conking out on you. With the LED things, I don't see any sort of longevity. Oh yeah, we can have this technology to where they do last for years and years, but guess what? We're not going to sell any more light bulbs, so why make it that way? Build some cheaper components in there, get your cost per unit down, and that's where you go with the LED bulbs. I'm pretty sure that's what corporations have done that manufacture them. Or do they all come from China, where the standards of manufacture aren't quite as high as in the United States?
I remember, at least in my lifetime, I mean, granted, I'm only, say, 22 years old here. I mean, I remember going from incandescent to fluorescent and now to LED. I mean, there's some, light fixtures that I went straight from incandescent maybe to LED. That's because that's all we had around the house. I haven't had many issues with fluorescent bulbs in my time of using them, and we've switched those very early on in my life, as far back as I can remember, at least.
Yeah, I do remember the CFLs, the compact fluorescent bulbs. When they came out, they were slightly more expensive than the incandescent bulb at first, but they're obsolete technology right now because they say, oh no, they have mercury, and mercury is bad if you throw them in your garbage can, so you got to go to LEDs now. And they had their little brief jaunt. I don't have any CFLs, but like say where I'm employed at, they still have CFL bulbs for their night lights, and they won't be upgraded or obsoleted until they burn out. So they'll run their lifespan and they might last for the next 20 years. Who's to say?
Now, most of your factories are still fluorescent, believe it or not.
Yeah, we have fluorescents all over the place, and they're talking about converting over to all LEDs. It's more energy efficient, but the cost is more expensive to get more energy efficient. And if you do the maths on how much electricity you're saving as opposed to the heavy equipment that's running, saving money on your lighting bill is insignificant compared to other things that do use the energy. So you're going to spend $5 to save 5 cents. That's pretty much what the ratio is.
I can't remember exactly what year it was, somewhere in the 80s, where they were talking about removing all fluorescents from all companies and such because of the damage it created to your eyes. But that was during the time of green screen computers also, where they were having a lot of trouble with people having issues with eyes and headaches and things. They wanted to blame it on the bulbs. I think it was the computers.
Yeah, it could have been on the interaction between the green and the white,
Yeah, but
Green screen computers themselves have become obsolete.
True there. Let's go down the list and name things that have been obsoleted. CDs, cassette tapes. Okay, everything is digital now. Now there's still people with CDs that listen to music. Okay.
There's coming back too if you want to talk about that. The music industry wants to go back to pressing vinyl because it's cheaper, even though believe it or not, and it has a much higher quality of sound resonance through a needle than the electronics can produce.
Than what a digital copy can produce.
And you cannot produce certain frequencies in that electronics that come out of the resonance of that pressed to vinyl. I know 2 corporations right now, actual recording studios that are pressing vinyl, back to pressing vinyl again because of the quality of the sound. Now it's mostly for recorded shows and things like that, they're be out there selling 1 million records again. But they're doing it for different areas where they need the sound to be as close to humanly spoken as possible without any interaction through the electronics. It's pretty slick what they're doing and the way they're doing it. It's even better than the CDs and such. Reel to reel at one time. There was another thing that was top notch. It's still used for recording when they're doing movies. That's reel to reel contact. It's a magnetic strip that's contacted on. So some things that we believe, because the consumer out here doesn't have them, they may be obsolete, but they're still in use in other areas that we don't see every day.
Okay, well, when you go to the movie theater and you watch a new release on the widescreen, isn't that reel to reel still?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and why haven't they made that into digital, some sort of, projection or something like that?
Because most theaters aren't really equipped for it. They're still running with older equipment.
But do you get better sound and better quality out of the older equipment? Has that actually become obsolete?
I would say no.
The projection TV. At one time, it was considered to be one of the top-notch electronic pieces of equipment to project an image onto a glass type screen, a reflective screen. But it could only hold so many rads of color. It couldn't do a full color spectrum. So to show a video of something that may be a full rainbow, you wouldn't get the full rainbow effect because of that projection not being able to shoot that color.
They became obsolete, right?
Yep. And they are obsolete. I don't know anyone that has projection any longer.
Yeah, well, you'll always have the video files and the audio files out in society where they say the older sounds better, the older is better, and they're not going to ever switch over to the new digital age of stuff that's like, I mean, really, honestly, if you watch a movie on Netflix, that's just digital content that's piped across the internet, to your computer.
I mean, if it's recorded digitally and it is mastered digitally, it naturally might sound better digitally. But if you're listening to, say, an older record, maybe even from the 70s, I'll use, say, a Bee Gees record. If you're listening to that, it was recorded on analog, it's going to sound better on analog, at least in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I've had the great experience of working at a place called a studio. Let's put it that way. I don't want to blow off the name. And whenever we recorded reel to reel or mastered a vinyl, the vinyl always sounded better to half of us, and the reel would sound better to the other half of the people in there. So we would mix it both ways and combine the two to get a happiness of all the family, if you would. You couldn't do that digitally because no matter how we tried to digitally remaster a vinyl piece, we could never get the quality of sound from it because it just did not pick up what was in that vinyl. And to this day, I really can't explain it to you. I mean, I've tried looking it up to see why the sensitivity of a needle against the vinyl is much better than something being recorded by a microphone, when in essence it's being recorded by a microphone to be pressed onto the vinyl. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those, how come it works so well this way, but it doesn't work this way? I guess I might be off the track a little bit, but it's always, I can sit here and put my Bee Gees record, which I really do have one, on my stereo, and it sounds amazing. I can play the same song on my computer with my high def speakers. Doesn't sound as good as what's coming off that vinyl. And you're right, it may be just because it was pressed vinyl first, and I understand that sound or recognize that sound as being pure and clear, as opposed to the digital sound, which is not pure or clear.
Yeah, it just might be all the ways your ears are tuned to listen to music in the different frequencies,
Yeah.
To throw a joke into it, the Bee Gees record has more grooves in it.
Well, yeah,
a digital copy of a Bee Gees track has more grooves.
We did to 48 tracks. Digitally, it's actually set up to run 128 different tracks, which means that I could record 5 different bands doing the same thing at the same time and run all their tracks the same way. But I wouldn't be able to do that on a vinyl. I would only be able to do this one group. You know what I mean? Where now you can sort all of it out, bring it out if you wish, but you still can't get that pure sound out of a person's voice.
Okay, well, let's jump over real quick before we run out of time to the aspect of technology and obsolescence. Moore's law states that CPU processing power is increasing exponentially. So, in accordance with, say, cell phones, okay, we all pretty much have the modern cell phones, okay? We don't have any more flip phones. But back in the day when they first came out, heck, I can remember back before the internet when I had an 8-bit computer and my first modem was 300 bits per second and you had to dial up to get a connection. Now we have worldwide communication and just about everyone has a cell phone, whether it's a modern one or a older model one. The obsolescence isn't really planned into cell phones because of Moore's law. The technology, the processing speed is getting better and better and better, and the obsolescence comes into play that you did the best you could when you invented that and released it into the public sector. You did the best job you could. It had as many features as you could pack in at that particular time in history of the manufacturing capabilities you have. And now they're coming up with, instead of one camera on a phone, 3 cameras, 4 cameras. Okay, what's the upper limit on that? 6 cameras on your phone for the latest model. They're also decreasing the size of the chip so they can pack more into an individual cell phone. Now, computers pretty much are static. You can change out your graphics card. You can change out your motherboard, but they make newer versions of motherboards, and that's because the technology has gotten better. The manufacturing process has become more robotic, more precise, and it's just faster and better. So people aren't really, what do you guys think? They don't really care that they're obsoleting their perfectly good working cell phone to get the faster and better model?
Well, it's also a fashion style, maybe obsolescence of desirability.
Well, it's kind of like keeping up with the Joneses. Your cell phone's slow, and your neighbor, Jones, he has the fast cell phone, and he's like, well, why is your phone lagging? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like a fashion cycle, per se.
Yeah, like wearing a fancy watch or something.
Riding the fashion cycle.
Okay, but it's gotten to be where everyone relies upon their cell phones to communicate. So isn't it innate that you want something that's workable but also not quite obsolete yet? Eventually, everyone is forced to get a newer model cell phone before their current cell phone is outdated. Or unless you have an accident and, crack screen, whatever. Okay, I got to finally get a new one. This one quit working. But that's by necessity, not by want.
You could say that exact same thing about cars.
Okay, we have enough time to touch on cars.
If your car works, well, you don't need a new one, and when you need a new one, you don't want to get one worse than the one you already had, so might as well get a newer one.
Yeah, but in the aspect of cars, is it reliable? Is it going to get you from point A to point Z? Are you having it in the shop every weekend? That's a determining factor out of necessity as well. It's not really your car's obsolete. You could sell it to a second-hand person. They'd be happy because it's an upgrade from their 1996 Ford Escort wagon. Okay, so, there's not the obsolescence built into an automobile. It's, do you really want the nicer, newer one with less headaches and less mechanical work and maintenance? Because as cars go on, they do require more maintenance.
The thing that I don't understand about modern cars now is the cost to maintain them. I mean, parts are like, for instance, for my old Escort, it's rotors are $20 a piece. I mean, working in the parts industry, that for newer cars, the parts are a lot more expensive, and that's one thing I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation right at the top of my head why part is a part. I mean, other than the computer components, but you're talking about something mechanical, which is, rotors, brakes, that kind of stuff.
And some of the parts, there's like a huge price difference that I've noticed working at a parts store. They're huge price difference, but they're nearly identical. I mean,
You wouldn't put a set of ceramic brakes on your car as opposed to just putting steel impregnated, would you?
I don't know, do ceramics last longer?
Depends on the use of the vehicle. If you're just driving back and forth to work every day and you're really not putting under excessive stress, you're stopping and going constantly, you're like a delivery vehicle, ceramic brakes are the best because it's a constant stop and go and they will last longer and not destroy the rotor as fast. But if you don't stop and go as much, you can put a cheaper model on there and make it last just as long. When we do a police vehicle, we have to put all ceramic on it, and we have to get the American made, no offense to the Chinese, haha, American made rotors that last longer, and they're powder coated so that they don't rust.
So if you buy a newer EV electric vehicle, they're going to have ceramic brakes on them?
Yeah, I'm afraid they're going to.
What's the price difference between ceramic and steel impregnated?
You got a parts man on the phone. It's quite a bit.
Anthony, what's like the difference if I wanted to put ceramic brakes on?
I mean, you're jumping from, say, the semi-metallic, steel impregnated. You're jumping from that about maybe say $20, $30 a set to about maybe $50 to $60.
Yeah.
Okay, so almost double in price, not like 5 times the price.
No, I mean it's. And they have the carbon fiber ones and all the higher end ones than that. It seems the higher your price jump you go up, the less that the less the jump is from next to next. So when you're going up into the higher end, it's more of just a pick your poison kind of thing. I mean, you're spending this much money anyway, so what do you want?
And winding up on the topic of obsolescence that is planned, brakes are the perfect example of that, right?
Absolutely.
They're designed to go bad.
Some of the things in my research, I noticed that I found out that some manufacturers are doing it, but it's not for a reason though. They do it for their sake. For instance, ink cartridges, where they go and they disable a function on them, and to make them, have to be replaced faster. Like the inkjet printer manufacturers, they put a smart chip in them. They're to be used after a certain threshold of pages, certain number of pages, time, what you have it. Even though the cartridge may have ink in it, or can be refilled, 50%, up to 50% of the toner or ink is still in there. I mean, that's programmed obsolescence.
Okay, well, yeah, for to be on point, it costs $28 to get a new set of ink cartridges, and you can get a printer for $25 full of ink cartridges that are brand new. So at that point, you just throw the printer away and get a new printer because it's not worth putting more expensive ink cartridges in there, right? That's another form, right?
Right. I mean, there's another one, software lockout, where, older versions, like I just had it pop up on my computer when I booted it up today, where it said, this is your last system update until you upgrade to a new system. So it's basically there's nothing wrong with this computer. I feel it runs just fine.
You just won't put any more updates on it. You'll continue to use it as is.
Won't be able to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well,
so be it.
We need to start wrapping up this episode. If you like to, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for listening. Give us a like and tap the notification bell. And by the way, everyone have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. See you later.